Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, January 14th meeting of the Blackstone-Millville Regional School District School Committee. If you would mind, join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. When's good news? When's good news? Introduction of members.
Bethany Dunton, Blackstone.
Tammy Lemieux, Blackstone. Tara Larkin, Millville.
Erin Vanaco, Millville.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Erin Vernon, Millville.
Jack Keefe, Blackstone.
Wen Cobb, Business Manager.
Jason DeFalco, Incoming Superintendent.
Alan Himmelberger, Outgoing Superintendent.
And I would like to officially welcome Jason. He will start on July 2nd, but we're already dragging him and not to work. Yep, he's spent the day in the district, and we appreciate your willingness to join us today, and welcome, and
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
excited to move forward.
Absolutely.
Okay. Recognition of some very important people sitting in the front of the room.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this time of year is always bittersweet for us. It's an exciting time for the people that we're going to talk about. But in front of us we have 5 educators who collectively have given 115, that's 115 years of service to BMR.
Oh, sorry.
And it is my honor to let everyone know that these are 5 outstanding individuals who have given so much to so many students over all of these years. I didn't know if I was going to go alphabetical or by years of service. I did not clear that with the retirees, so I'm going to go with starting with Steve Slate because he's at the top of my list. Steve, Mr. Slate has taught at the high school for 16 years. He obviously started a few years after college and has done such tremendous work in so many areas. I know that the science department will sorely miss him, and I know that the students, the faculty, and myself have enjoyed every minute of Mr. Slate and his sense of humor and his good humor and his dedication to the work. So we say thank you to Mr. Slate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to say, we hold our applause. No,
If you want to come forward a little bit, we'd like to hear from you and your experience here and the
Okay.
book that you, for people who don't know, do you want to all come
Yeah,
together?
yeah.
Okay, never mind. Hold that thought. Think about it. Think about it. Think about what you want to say.
So just as Mrs. Reggio said, we typically and historically have always allowed the retirees to pick a book that they want to leave behind as their legacy, and we put it into the library at their schools. And so we'll do that as soon as we talk about all 5.
Okay.
Mary Sherman, who's also next on the list, but has been with us for 17 years and has done an unbelievable amount of work at Maloney and Kennedy as our adjustment counselor. Everybody knows that job has gotten progressively more challenging every year because of the needs of our students. And it seems that over the last several years, the work is just never ending as more students have more needs around social, emotional, and behavioral. And Mary has been able to not only meet the needs of the students on her caseload, she has been a supporter of the entire student population at both Kennedy and Maloney. And over the years, 17 goes by so fast, but we thank you for all of your hard work in keeping our students safe and in school. Next is Mary Ann McLean, who has also been here for 17 years and has given 17 years to the high school and into the science program. Mr. Slate is on your left. I'm sure you have met. But this is a tremendous duo over the years. But Mary Ann has taken on NHS and has done a lot of other things for our students. Her communication with students, her communication within the faculty is first rate all the time. She never seems to have a bad day. I got to get the secret to that.
Science teacher.
She's a science teacher. And she has given so much, again, to our faculty and our staff and our students at BMR. And so we thank you for 17 wonderful years. Miss Patricia Powers is leaving after only 22 years. Patty started in 1996 as a reading teacher and has moved into special education and has given the students and staff at JFK and Maloney such support over all of these years. It has been wonderful. We casually meet on airplanes, it seems, this year, but Patty has been awesome every day for every student. And 22 years does go by quick, and we look forward to celebrating. Last is, oh, wait a minute. What's that? We'll get all of you up. And last is Maureen McMillan, who we were talking about as being very calm, but has a way of getting the message out. I remember this day in October of 1975 when Maureen started. 43 years as a Title I and first grade teacher. That is a career. To be able to work in the same place, same district for a career, I think doesn't happen as much these days with all of the pressures on us and on the district. However, it goes without saying that you have left the gold standard of how to teach in first grade. And I think that your years to be as engaged, and this goes for all of the retirees, to be able to be as engaged and as fresh after all of the years is simply a tribute to what you have chosen to do here at BMR. And I just want to say over the past 4 years, it has been amazing to see you work, and we look forward to hearing about your books. So a round of applause for 115 years of education excellence. And so I guess we would go in the same order and ask folks to come up, and you could certainly come up and drag 3 more chairs, because this is the cool part about why you chose the book that you did, and they're en route and will be delivered with your name as your testament to what you contributed to BMR. So I guess we start with Mr. Slate.
If you wanna all
You
go
can
and-
all come up,
Yep,
yeah, we just need a
absolutely.
couple more chairs.
Just bring your, there we go. Thank you, Steve.
There we go.
We're good. Ju-
Probably use the mic so
The
it goes
microphone
Yeah.
just picks it up for the folks in the universe that might be listening, but
Right.
it won't amplify. It'll just,
So the book that I have chosen that will be at the high school library is a book called Napoleon's Buttons. And the name's slightly misleading, but it's a compilation of organic chemistry, which I tend to like. Well, you know, it is what it is, occupational hazard.
yep.
But it goes into about 12 major organic compounds that have changed the world. And they're all compounds that we're pretty familiar with. Things like caffeine and cotton and nicotine And what I enjoyed about the book, not so much the science part of it, which gets a little heavy duty, but there's a lot of history in it. And it talks about how these compounds were introduced into the global market, and all of the history of how that has happened, and all of the good and the not so good things that have gone along with it. Things like the slave trade, okay? But then things like morphine, and so some of the medications that have come out of it. So it's a nice cross book between the science and sort of the history of how these things have changed the world. And I think it's a good book to have at the high school level. That's my choice.
Sounds
Awesome.
great. Sounds good, actually. Anybody have any?
So I really read this book called All the Light We Cannot See. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's one of my favorite books. I read it a long time ago and did not realize I was going to recap the story tonight. But it's a World War II setting in France, in Paris. And it's a story of a young girl who's living and being raised by her father, and she's blind. And her father is at the Museum of Natural History, and I can't remember what it has to do with the locks, if anybody has read that book, but it's a very sweet story. It's a sad story, and I like historical fiction, but the title kind of says it all the light we cannot see, and I just love that title when I think about the kids that we teach. It's nice to just think about what's going on behind the scenes sometimes. This little girl in the book, her father makes her the city of Paris in a miniature so that she can learn her way around. She crosses paths with a young German boy, so it's about how they're on different sides in occupied France, and they get together, and it's a great book. I had to make a choice of whether to put it in the high school or the middle school. I'm not sure that Mr. Himmelberger remembers I got my start at the middle school. So I was 9 years, 9 and 8 as a split. But I decided to put it in the high school as my farewell gift.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not a teacher. After those teacher presentations, wow. I picked a book that I haven't read because we have the Wax Museum at the complex for the third graders. And it's a wonderful event where they read biographies and they dress up and they act them out and they learn how to present. But they're very challenging for certain readers, especially our readers that, you know, aren't quite up to a third grade level to find a biography that they can digest and present and feel part of things. So I started to look up appropriate biographies for kind of the lower level readers, and I hit upon Cesar Chavez. And I thought, oh, that would be wonderful, but I didn't get it because I thought, oh, I was really excited about it, I had it written down, that was what I was going to do. But then I scrolled down and I saw one of Sonia Sotomayor, and I thought, oh, the girls, we are not represented in anything like we should be. So I said, oh, I have to leave that as my legacy. So it's of a woman that obviously is on the Supreme Court. So I've left a book I haven't read.
But hopefully many can.
Will be read and acted out at the Wax Museum.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you.
So I chose the book Knuckle Bunny Free, and it's the third in a series. And I chose it because Mo Willems, who writes it, I don't know if any of you have children and have knowledge about it. He writes stories sometimes moralistic. He has characters who have some type of conflict, and then at the end they always resolve the conflict. One of the characters is a lot more verbal than the other one, but somehow they managed to get through it. And Mo Willems was chosen as the grade 1 author, and that's why I chose the book, because, and he also writes a lot of other books that they have pigeon in it. So you're all nodding your head, so I figure you have kids.
The
You-
pigeon, yeah.
And the kids
pigeon
love the books. I mean, they,
And drives the
I know
bus.
in Maureen's class, they couldn't wait for her to go down to the book room and bring up the whole thing of Mo Willems' Elephant and Piggy books, which they really enjoyed. And this last one of the series, I hope I'm not ruining it for anyone, but it starts out, the first one starts out with a little girl, Trixie, who loses her bunny, her Knuffle bunny, and she's all upset, and they finally find it. And then the second in the series goes on to tell more about as she grows up a little. And then the last one is when she actually goes on vacation, and coming home on the plane, she happens to find her Knuffle bunny. And there's a little baby who's crying, and she figures that she doesn't need it anymore, and she gives it to the little baby, and he stops crying. So it's just a really nice series, and you know what? It gets the kids into a certain author, like, you know, Mo Willems, and the kids also like, you know, Captain Underpants and all kinds of different things. So it really gets them. So that's why I chose that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I chose the second book in the Knuffle Bunny series. So now our library has all three. It just had that first book in the series. And the reason I started as the author study with Mo Willems is because my kids would come into first grade and they would talk to me about the pigeon books. And I had somehow decided, oh, I don't think I like that author. So I thought, I'm going to make myself research and get his books and see why the first graders love him. And they just love those pigeon books. They just laugh and they can't have enough. When it was our last pigeon book, they were so sad. So then I discovered the Knuffle Bunny books, and it's the sweetest, sweetest story. First time I read Knuffle Bunny free, I couldn't get through the book. I was sobbing because she gave away her little lovey, and as did her parents, I think, feel as shocked as I did in the book. But I'm happy now that the library has all three in the series, because you really need to see what Trixie is like when she's an infant, and then she's a toddler, and then she's a preschooler, and the decision she makes. So I'm happy to leave that book as part of a series for the children.
Thank you. Does anyone?
I just wanted to say that actually the same daughter has had 2 of the 5 retirees, and I remember way back when I got to volunteer in Mrs. McMillan's room, and it actually was just when I started teaching, and I just applaud her and you for your amazingness, because I have never been in a classroom of children. You just managed your class so, I mean, first graders are tough little beings, and I remember leaving after my hour of volunteerism and thinking, oh, I hope I can do that. So thank you for your service, and Mr. Slate has the joy of having the same daughter this year as a 10th grader, so thank you for the love of science, and hopefully she goes on to pursue something in marine biology, but the love is coming from the science staff there, so thank you, and thank you to everyone else that I haven't had a chance to get to know.
I was lucky enough to have both Miss McLean and Mr. Slate as teachers when I went through high school all that time ago, right? Miss McLean taught me in my freshman year, very formative, probably a good thing to have that solid class I could always go to. I always learned something in that class, and I always had a good relationship with Miss McLean. I managed to help her with some National Honor Society stuff further down the line, even though I didn't get in. I won't hold a grudge over it, but I know. But I did manage to do some lighting and stuff for them, which was always great. And Mr. Slate, I think I had you a couple years there, and one thing you did for me in my junior year, I think it was, your honors chemistry class had 30 students in it, and I just wasn't feeling challenged and advanced. And when I asked you if I could have your 31st seat, because you had 31 seats in the classroom, but you weren't supposed to have 31 students there, I asked you if I could take it, and you said you'd be okay with it, and it really gave me the opportunity to challenge myself my junior year, and I did really well in that class, and so I thank you for that.
And he told us he learned all about apple juice.
Probably.
Certainly a lot.
It's a miracle thing, isn't it?
Well, for, let's see, 16 years before I started teaching, that's what I did, virtually every day of the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Well, thank you all very much. Oh, yes, please, yeah.
So, true story, as Marianne mentioned, she was a middle school teacher. And the first year we opened up, Marianne was here also. And as you all know, I'm head of maintenance for the middle school. So after our first winter, the heating bill was through the roof. So our second winter, the principal at the time said, Scott, drop all the temperatures in the classroom to 68 degrees. On several occasions, I walked by Mary Ann's room and she was teaching with gloves on. So I think as a district, we owe Mary Ann a pair of gloves.
That's awesome. That's funny.
I do have to say, I'm moving to Florida in 2 weeks. On Christmas vacation, I'll be looking for these.
It does get cold in Florida.
That's true. That's snow on occasion.
Can I hold a golf club with these?
Well, you might have to get golf clubs.
Thank you.
Well, we wish you nothing but the best. Hopefully we will see your faces often because you have meant the world to this place. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for 115 years of outstanding service.
There's also someone else who is leaving the district who's here with us today, not retiring, but leaving to another career. And I don't know that we've ever acknowledged at the meeting officially, but I would like to congratulate Dr. Paul Haughey on his new position as superintendent and thank him for his service to Blackstone Millville. It has meant the world to us as well. Sitting next to him, I don't know that we've officially welcomed Christine Schaefer, but welcome as the new principal of Millville Elementary School. Yay. And at this time, we will open the floor to public forum if anyone has anything they would like to share with us. Please.
Tony Harvey, 61 Bellingham Road. I just wanted to comment, I was at the kindergarten parent meeting this evening in Millville for the kindergartners for this coming fall, and I happened to ask the question, what is the class size for the both communities? And from what they can tell at this point in the game, it's about 16 in Millville and 25 in Blackstone. And I don't know why it's 25, whether the population is higher or you're losing a teaching position in the kindergarten level. But to have 25 kindergarten kids in a classroom, and you've got, even though you have 0.71 or 72 or 75 of an aide, is just heartbreaking actually because of the importance of early intervention, and this is the foundation in here. A number of years ago when BMR went to full-day kindergarten, they put a lot of effort and time in restructuring because of the demands and what they wanted the kids to be best prepared for come first grade and MCAS and so forth. I just could not sit here and not say, this is such a sad situation to have kindergarten start at 25 And then you don't know what September brings. As you all know, the numbers seem to grow, not go in the other direction, come the first day of school. And so I'm just going to, as a resident and someone who cares deeply about education, and particularly in our community, that ask if there is a way to, I don't know whether you're going to lose a position because of the budget, or the numbers are bigger, or that you need to add a position. So I'm not going to ask that this evening, but to really reconsider, because it really does take that first step forward of a child, a human being's education, and it kind of puts it not on the best foot forward. I know every grade, every class is important, but kindergarten is where we're starting track and where we're getting them going, getting them so prepared. It's not kindergarten that my kids went to. It's the expectations and the need for them to exceed academically and socially and so forth are just much more critical today than it was 20 years ago or maybe even 10 years ago. So I really just had to, as an adult, come in and just hope that you are able to do something to decrease the class size of kindergarten of 25, which is such a shame. I don't know if you can comment, but...
I will absolutely comment. We were going to comment later, but I will absolutely comment. I apologize that message was sent out at a kindergarten.
I asked the question.
Yeah. For those that were here at our meeting last time, our budget meeting, the school committee committed to making sure that kindergarten remained with the 5 teachers, with I think it was 19 or 20, some were 19, some were 20, and we are still committed to that. So why that message, I mean, maybe somebody was throwing out an idea of trying to save more money or not save more money, but we are fully committed to making sure that there are appropriate numbers in
That's wonderful. I'm sure a lot of people are going, oh, thank God.
Well, I hope they get that message.
But you know what, I don't mean to get, I hope I didn't talk, I asked the question.
Yep.
And they probably were, so I don't mean to speak for any, I don't want to get anyone in trouble, because I don't think they did anything maliciously whatsoever. I asked the questions.
Yeah.
And and I know you are in the middle of the budget. But I thank you so much for that response.
So I mean, I'm sure that there have been a lot of discussions. There have been discussions with leadership. There have been discussion with teachers. There's been discussions. We did receive a letter from the kindergarten teachers, or on behalf of the kindergarten teachers, and we were going to respond to that later, but you gave us a great opportunity, so we are committed to keeping the kindergarten classes as the 5 sections in Blackstone.
I'm so pleased. And I'm sure the kindergarten teachers in the building itself are going to be like so pleased. So I thank you very much for your action that you've taken to commit that. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, please.
Cecilia Doyle, since the letter in kindergarten was brought up, I just want to make a statement in general to everybody that our letter was in no way intended to put precedence over one grade level or another. We were just sharing our feelings of the impact in kindergarten. I stated more than once now this past month how my thoughts on class size, and I do believe the elementary level at all grades in elementary school, class size is of huge importance. And I won't go on to it much longer, but please understand the kindergarten teachers from JFK were not trying to put one grade level against another, and that is not the message we're trying to send. We just want all children in elementary school to be given the best chance they have, because this is the only year they have in whatever grade they're in.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you. And just so folks know, we appreciate receiving that kind of information, because that letter came to us as a surprise.
Right.
You know, we had said at our last meeting, and so again, there are a lot of conversations, and I think it's really important that everybody check information and check it appropriately, because it's a lot better to make sure correct information goes out, and things are tough. We can't commit to the other grades at this point in time. We committed last at our last meeting that that was a priority for us, that class size would be the first thing that we would address. And hopefully, as the Millville has its meeting on the 27th, we will get those additional funds and at least move forward, and we'll talk a little bit about some of that stuff very shortly. But the kindergarten, we are committed to. So, anyone else? Please.
I just wanted to recognize all my staff who they came back last night at 11:30 at night from the DC trip, and to especially recognize Mrs. Kathy Finnegan for all her efforts in organizing the entire trip. And the students had a fabulous time, even though while they were there, I guess DC wins the Stanley Cup, so then they have a big, huge
Remind me.
parade, and so instead of worrying about losing students in that parade, the students were thrilled to go to the National Zoo. And they had some of the best weather, so it was not too hot. And we want to just thank all the parents for all of the donations for the snacks and the water as well. So I just wanted to give an update on that trip.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate seeing the pictures as they went along. So that was really, I appreciated seeing that because I don't always.
A lot of parents on social media said thank you for sharing those. So Mrs.
Yeah.
Finnegan would text me the blurbs, I'd put them up.
Yeah,
And because their kids weren't texting them. So they said, we're glad to find out what's going on since we haven't heard from them. At least we know they're alive.
How many students were able to go this year?
About 117.
That's great.
Maybe 119. It was just under 120.
That's great. That's
Thank
wonderful.
you to the staff for that.
Thank you. Yep.
It's a class of under 150, so it was almost everyone.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Consent agenda A, I'll entertain a motion to move the warrants and minutes of the meeting from May 24th and May 30th.
So moved.
Moved by Jack, seconded by Karen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, budget update. As I stated a few minutes earlier, Millville Board of Selectmen did vote to have another meeting, a special town meeting on June 27th at 7 p.m., I believe at the Millville Elementary School Auditorium. They were requested it. I'm assuming they got that. So it's very important that people go and support the school efforts, because the money in Millville, $39,362, equates to $100,000 from Blackstone. So without one, we don't get the other. So we're looking at essentially $140,000 that is hugely already in our budget and hopefully needs to stay. So the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator from Millville did indicate that they would make that motion and serve that warrant regardless of the outcome. So they would commit to the school budget dollars regardless of the outcome of the override. But the override, again, important to the town of Millville. So that vote is on the 19th and the special town meeting on the 27th. And then Wen has some information for us. So I will turn it over to Wen, or to you.
I'll just start.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Reggio. So as I mentioned at the last meeting, there is an awful lot of things in play that will hopefully positively affect our FY19 budget. And my thanks to Mrs. Cobb for keeping all of this straight, because it looks like we will have additional funding available to us from a variety of circumstances. And I just wanted to say again, thank you very much, Wen, for all of your hard work. I'll let her give you the good news. And it is good news that will obviously require some additional conversation about how best to use this. We won't be able to have a distinct final adjudication of this budget process until after June 27th. And for all of you watching and knowing folks in Millville, I cannot underscore how important that $39,362 is to this school budget for next year. And I know, and having talked to the FinCom in Millville, how important every penny is, but we really have borne a huge amount of the shortfall here, and it's so imperative that folks understand that while that seems like a small amount, we know it's a large number for Millville. But that $39,362 is the sole warrant article on the special town meeting on Wednesday, June 27th. And so I would ask every Millville voter to please come out and support this school budget. And so I will turn it over to Wen to that she can give you some of the important highlights and the total number, which is significant, and would speak to hopefully restoring some things that we have already cut out.
Thank you. I just want to say it's a group effort of the school committee members and the leadership team, and we have been out many nights and working on the budget, and we're glad to see it come closer to the final budget. So just want to thank you, everyone. As Mr. Hammerberger said, I do have some good news. So I'll give everyone the final budget, the possible additional funding that can be added back to FY19's budget is $248,617. So I'm gonna break down. So there are a couple items. The first item is the school committee and the leadership team adjustment to the budget. Superintendent's contract payout will be made in fiscal 18, and the unemployment adjustment, along with unemployment adjustment, we're able to release $71,000 from FY19 budget. And the next three items is about changing the start time at the middle school and the high school. So there is a motion in the agenda to rescind the change of school start time at the middle school and the high school. So we will need to put the Healthy Start stipend back to the middle school budget. That's $1,600. And but we still reduce that $6,000 for shuttle fee. The next two items is the one-to-one initiative Chromebooks lease at the middle school and the technician position. We're taking it out from the budget at this point. And at the high school, we reduce the department head stipends, but we leave $7,500 for curriculum coordinator and the curriculum professional development. And the last is we level funded the music budget, so we add $8,000 back to the budget. So for all that, we have additional $139,117 putting back to the budget. The next is the state revenue budget update. The senator budget has positive impact on FY19 budget. For FY18 this year, Chapter 70 transportation reimbursement, circuit breaker reimbursement, revenue increase offset by school choice. The estimated net increase is about $32,000. And for FY19, Chapter 70 transportation reimbursement offset by school choice, we estimate the net increase $30,000. For the circuit breaker, assume we have the same claim base at $450,000, and the state full funded the circuit breaker at 75%. The potential increase is $47,500. So to add all that up, the anticipated additional funding for FY19 is 248,617, and that number has been communicated with Dr. DeFalco. So we go from there. On the last meeting on May 3rd.
Sorry.
Yes.
I know you are soft-spoken, but I know they can't hear you. So if you can try to.
Oh.
Try to yell.
Okay. So last meeting, I think I said I will give an update on the health insurance cost after the open enrollment, and I did run a projection. So FY18 actual and plus that 0.61% increase, it's only 12,000 away from the budget, but any enrollment change can change the number, so we decided not to touch the house insurance budget. And the next one is the class size. I don't know if we hold back on that discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one is the correction to this reduction by cost center summary chart I gave to school committee last time. So it's the second page. It's just an error. And you have the most updated chart.
Anyone have any questions for Wen?
Yep.
Okay.
So at our last meeting, sorry, Erin, you have my notes. We had prioritized school committee priorities. We had number 1, elementary class sizes. Number 2 was the ELL, ESL teachers. And number 3 was extracurricular. The meeting before, on May 30th, we had cut the Chromebooks and technician through a motion. So they're back on here.
No, they're cut. These are cuts. These are cuts.
But weren't they already cut from the last numbers
They
we
weren't
had?
taken out of
Back
the
in.
last numbers that we had.
No.
I have this.
It's catching up to the
Still
motion of
cats.
the committee.
Okay.
Yes.
It may be in there. It was never on our cost center sheet.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
I was wondering, did we come to a decision about department heads as a committee, or was that just a decision that was made administratively?
We tabled it, so.
We tabled it.
We did.
Yeah.
And I know there was further discussion.
There was, and obviously, none of these discussions are simple or straightforward or easy, but administration said we could eliminate the department heads. Part of the reason for that is it would give additional sections to be taught, because department heads teach one less, so that we would be able to add back in teaching sections to be able to allow more electives to be offered. So that was the reason behind that. Again, the hope is that it's just for 1 year, and that we can regroup and move forward.
So the stipend positions for department heads was above this 10,000. I don't have it in here. It was like 24.
It's 17,500.
17.5.
So you're subtracting out 10,000?
So there's a new sort of stipend position of a curriculum coordinator, or where, I thought I just heard someone say that.
It's just the budget we put aside for any curriculum-related professional development or coordination.
So coordination,
So
not coordinator.
Yeah, we put
think she did
we
say
put
that.
3,000 back to
She did say that before.
professional development, and 4,500 for just curriculum development.
So I guess Mike's not here tonight. So when we mentioned, we mentioned department chairs, Mike wasn't here. He had left for some senior high school thing. And then when he came back the next meeting, he said that the reason he really felt the need to have those department chairs was because they guide all the, I don't know what we call it here, PLC time or, department time, and that without them, who would run the show? So I guess I'm asking who would run the show, because he didn't seem to have confidence that they would use that time value good, I don't even know what word. Well, thank you. I'm like goodly. No, that's And so I wonder what the change of heart is, because I was the one that thought maybe we could use that money for something else, but I also don't want wasting time
Right.
that we're paying for.
So again, I think when we went back and looked at it, we knew that we had continued pressure on this. And so for 1 year, because we were reducing staff, we deemed it more important to gain the additional teaching sections back than to, have to move forward. Obviously, not to put Dr. DeFalco on the spot, but he will provide additional support and be able to, I think, the thought is that administration would be able to get through 1 year.
Okay. So all department chair stipends are cut, so guidance, that's not a teaching position,
Correct.
position.
Right.
So does Peter continue to be
No,
guidance chair?
all of them, all stipends would be cut.
So why is it only 10,000 on here
Yeah,
then?
'cause
If
that's-
it was 17 and.
Because
Right, the
they
to-
left 7,500 for curriculum
Right.
development and professional development.
Okay.
Me-
It was
Place,
moved to
yes.
curriculum.
Yeah, no, meaning that there will still be projected some supports necessary, and it's a little, it's just to try and be a little bit on the safe side, that if it's necessary, that it's there.
Yeah.
But it does allow for the additional class instructional time in offering more electives for our students, and with at least a bit of an impact on the bottom line.
And
again,
I
none of-
appreciate that.
None of it's
because
easy.
I could appreciate the position of a department chair, but that those courses were more valuable in the scheme of things at a high school with where we're at. Thank you.
So just to, I'm sorry, Erin.
So just two questions. The money you freed up from FY19 that you're using from this year's budget, what are you projecting we're ending the year at when?
I'm still close to year, so it's
But not negative,
from
not
the-
going into E&D as our sheets were going down?
No, from the initial year end close, we
Money's there.
will not touch E&D at this point.
So, okay.
Yeah.
And then my last question is kind of piggybacking on what Tara was getting to. We did have a motion at our last meeting, essentially marking any of this money to staff. So you're saying right now we have $248,000 in the
Potential.
in the positive that could go into staffing. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And that would be I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And that would be the ultimate win, is that if all, and Mrs. Cobb is conservative in her projections and always has been, and that's the way to manage this, because it is a rather complex process. But the anticipation would be that when we get to June 27th, sometime around 8 o'clock, that we would know in much better what we have to spend. And obviously, the decisions are not mine. They would be Dr. DeFalco's, along with the leadership team and the committee, to move forward, knowing exactly how much that would be. But it's not easy, but at least we see some additional help, and obviously the bottom line is to have the best professional staff in front of our students, and to be able to deliver instruction as effectively as we can, and that is still the goal and always will be. But there is going to require a little more patience in the time frame to have this all move forward. Could there be additional money? Perhaps. Will there be less money? Hopefully not. But this is a very conservative projection that is a positive.
May I ask another question? Now I know why my mind was on 24,000. So when we talk about high school department heads, we also talked about team leaders at the middle school. Can we not save money there as well, or do we see that?
It doesn't free, we chose not to do that.
Okay.
We had chosen not to do that.
Okay.
That, especially given the shift in the middle school.
So,
Okay.
so again, the next meeting is the 28th, which is perfect timing because we have a lot of things going on that week, and certainly on the 27th, we would have a clear understanding of where we would be. So.
In that meeting, Jason wouldn't still not be the June 27th town meeting?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But then we have a meeting on June 28th, so we
But
should.
Jason still would not technically
No,
be
he would not.
here? But will he be here?
No.
No.
he will not.
No, I
Put that pressure on him.
I'm sorry, I guess my question is, if we know at that meeting what dollar amount we have, then we, the school committee, have come up with a priority list of things, one being reduce the class size at the elementary level first, but we won't be able to really answer that question at that meeting until further meetings when Jason actually joins us. So even though we can potentially talk about things on the 28th, we still will not have answers then, is what we're saying.
And that would be correct, probably because the state budget won't be signed until right around that point, we hope. And then everything will be locked in.
And we have a meeting July 9th.
Yes,
so
we do.
You can start delving into that.
It'll be my first missed meeting, Jason, but okay.
Sorry to hear that.
But certainly Jason has direct contact with many of us, and I'm sure if he has issues he would like on the priority list, I'm
Yes.
guessing he's not shy.
No.
Yes, you can, and then we're moving on.
The back page of Wen's handout.
Mm-hmm.
I just see
Files?
it's definitely been on there, but have we ever talked about the $940,000 in out-of-district tuition that is on here? How are we managing that? How are we coming to a $940,000 savings of out-of-district?
No, that's the total budget after the offset by grant and the circuit breaker. So the right line is the total budget number.
Okay.
And the reduction
Why is it
zero.
on here if there's not a reduction from it?
Because we asked for every cost center what the
It's just the total for the
total
recertified
was.
number. Yeah.
We asked for that.
So the title's just.
All
So
these
the
numbers are
zero,
becoming
Oh.
backwards.
the zero is the reduction.
Right, exactly.
Because it's already been taken.
Exactly, yeah.
Don't change all of these.
Yeah. What? Is he here? Oh, yes, he is.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move forward and report of the superintendent, building updates.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Reggio. So, as most everyone knows, we have gone through 2 town meetings where we have some immediate building needs, and one of them is replacing the fire panel at the Millville Elementary School, as well as at the high school. These panels do require updating and maintenance, and we haven't done either on both of these schools. And so I had asked our Blackstone Fire Chief, Chief Sweeney, to be here this evening just so he could give us a quick snapshot of where we are and where we're going, because there has been obviously a lot of concern and questions, and we really wanted to get this out for everyone. So, Chief, if you would come up, that would be terrific. I'm not sure how many people were at the Blackstone town meeting, but we are very fortunate to have Chief Sweeney as our fire chief, and I think the town meeting seconded that motion.
Thank you.
So thank you and welcome.
Good evening.
Yes, thank you.
Just to give you a quick Reader's Digest of how this came about and when it transpired, and how quickly an immediate problem was reduced, and the safety of the the students and the faculty was never in question. The safety of the building, that's another thing. We're going to deal with that. But all of the buildings in Blackstone, under state law, require quarterly fire alarm testing. And what the company does is they come into each of the buildings and they do a quarter of the building 4 times a year. So that in the course of the year, they meet the requirements of doing the entire structure. And up until December 28th, we've never had an issue. We've had a few minor issues back in 2009. The heat detectors at the high school started to fail. It was kind of ironic because we had 3 buildings in the town of Blackstone doing the same thing. The municipal center did the same thing, where we had to go in and replace all of the heat detectors. They have a shelf life just like any other smoke detector. So the municipal center was done, and then Foxbrook Manor also started having issues where we were responding there 2 and 3 times a day over the course of 3 or 4 weeks. The fire alarms were constantly going off. Well, BMR just followed in suit because they're about the same age. And under the administration then, we had looked and we had gotten quotes to replace the entire system. That never came to realization. What they opted to do at that particular time is to fix the immediate problem and replace a large quantity of the heat detectors that are in there. Since then, we haven't had an issue with it. And when I made the remark at the town meeting, I really wasn't trying to be funny. If you open the panel down in the BMR, I really believe there's a hamster in there. That's how archaic this thing is. It looks like an old TV with the tubes that used to come on and light up. It's a frightening panel. Having said that, it's been there almost 50 years, so the system that was put in there is a beautiful system. It's just outdated right now. But anyway, during one of the quarterly testings through the Christmas break on December 28th, I received a note from my dispatch that when I got back to the office, please call Precision Alarm, we have an issue at the high school. So I contacted Rob from Precision, and Rob had already forwarded information to the superintendent, so he was already on board with this. And it said we have a major issue up there. Portions of the high school, the devices are not ringing back to the alarm panel. And they're also not, and what was more concerning to me, is the horns and strobes weren't working. It should be noted that that particular building isn't designed, the system in that building is not designed to protect people. Now, you might sit back and say, well, gee, that's terrible. It was designed back when it was put in to protect the building. Heat detectors protect the building. By the time a heat detector trips, if there's smoke in the building, you're already dead. So the heat detector protects the building. What protects the building, the people in the building, are the people. Somebody sees smoke, they run to a pull station, pull the pull station, the alarm goes back to the fire department responds, and the audibles go off and everybody gets out of the building like we practice the fire drills. So that's what the heat detectors in there do. But anyway, I contacted Rob and I asked him exactly what isn't working. And he couldn't give me a complete report at that particular time. In the interim, on that same day, I contacted the superintendent, or the superintendent contacted me. I don't remember which way. It was probably the superintendent contacted me of his concern. And we know that we're going to need money. I went to the town administrator that same day, and he told me right out, he says, I've got the money, get it fixed. I don't think he really realized what it was going to cost, but he says, look, whatever it is, we need to get it fixed. The following, we met in that same afternoon, myself, the town administrator, the superintendent, code compliance, and Precision Alarm met at the school. And what I needed before we could move forward was a written report, because I had contacted the fire marshal's office for a little bit of guidance on this. And I was concerned that they were going to order me, or suggest to me, or recommend to me, to shut the building down. That's the last thing that we wanted to do, is disrupt the school during the school year. That would have raised all kind of chaos, and quite frankly, I like my job, so I wasn't going there. On the 3rd, after speaking with the fire marshal's office, I contacted the superintendent again, and then from that point on, from the 3rd or the 4th, I believe the 4th, we had a major snowstorm, and we were out of school Thursday, Friday, and then we had the weekend. But what we were doing at that particular time is pushing the alarm company, because before I could even act on this and make any decisions as to what we were going to do with the school, I needed a written report as to exactly what was wrong with that building. Between January 8th and January 16th, I like to describe that area as there became too many cooks in the kitchen. Everybody had an opinion. Everybody was offering advice. Everybody was telling us what we should and what we shouldn't do, but they didn't realize that in that window period, that 8-day period, that the 3 key players were in constant communication. Myself, the superintendent, and the town administrator. I don't think a day went by that I didn't talk to you, or that you didn't talk to me, or that I didn't talk to the town administrator. We knew exactly what we were trying to do, but before we could make a move, we needed a written report of what was wrong with that particular building. On the 16th, the troops rallied and gathered at the high school at 2:15 when school let out, and precision alarm went through the building. And on the following day, on the 17th, I got a written report of exactly what was wrong, what they diagnosed. And what they sent to me was a one-pager saying that the A wing, the B wing, and a portion of the C wing, the devices weren't communicating with the fire alarm panel. Doesn't mean all the devices were bad, it just means that they weren't communicating with the panel. So they weren't tripping the alarm, but again, more importantly, they weren't sounding the audibles, which was the fire alarms that the students would hear and the faculty would hear. We had made a decision now that we knew what areas, and a sidebar to that is the gymnasium, the auditorium, the cafeteria, the all-purpose rooms, and the shower rooms downstairs, and there was one portion, I believe, of the A wing that still worked. So that whole portion of the building still worked. It was the classroom section that didn't work. We made a decision that afternoon, and there was still some discussion and still some push from other departments in the town hall to close the building down. And I said, no, we're not going there. We're not going to do that. There's a common sense approach to this where the safety would not be jeopardized. What we decided to do was purchase 50 smoke detectors and install them in the 3 areas, the 3 wings that didn't have protection. And the custodial staff did that in 15 hours. I don't know how they did it. The alarm company came back the next day and tested them. They're all working. As the building sits right now, for a building with the particular alarm system in it, it's got more protection during the day than it's ever had in its life with the smoke detectors. It's got more early warning protection right now, but it still doesn't meet code. So that's where we are with the particular system that we have in there. Another topic of conversation that myself and the superintendent had is that we know that the regional is getting ready to do some renovations. What we wanted to try to do, and I saw some guidance from the fire marshal's office with this, and he said, look, you're the authority having jurisdiction in the town of Blackstone, it's your call. And what we were trying to do is that to try to incorporate this particular expense into the renovations. But the renovations never took place in this year, and I know that we've reapplied, I believe, and we're waiting to hear. The other conversation that I had with the alarm company and with the superintendent is there a quick fix? Do we have to spend $214,000 on a brand new system? What can we do, and can we put a quick fix in there? Well, the quick fix was somewhere between $37,000 and $55,000 to put a panel in there to meet the particular system that's already in there. The system that's in there is a high voltage system. It's a 110 volt system. New systems going in are low voltage. And the new system that's going to go in will be a low voltage system. And it's so antiquated, and he said, look, here's what we can do. You can put a panel in there for the tune of $35,000, but when we upgrade, the panel is useless. You're going to throw the panel away. So I couldn't justify spending that kind of money and 2 or 3 years on the road dump that particular system. The other side of the issue was you could put the panel in, but the remainder of the system, the devices, could continue to fail. So we're right back in the same boat. So what we opted to do is put an article on, go to town meeting, let the citizens, and to me it was just a no-brainer. And I appreciate the questions that were asked at the town meeting by some local alarm people, and I've been in constant contact with them since then. Some of them maybe want to put bids in, and maybe we could seek their guidance. But what the system that's going to go in there after we go out to bid is a system that can be carried over when the renovations to the building are made. So it's not a system that we're going to put in there and we'll never be able to use it. It'll be a state-of-the-art system that will be able to be tied into new devices. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, whether or not they can use the existing conduit, the wiring in there. I rely on the experts that are going to put proposals together for the system. So that's where we are right now, and we've got, the next step, I believe, is to go out to bid for this.
What will the timeline be for the bid? What are we waiting for at this point? The timeline has been approved and school's out in 9 days.
Right, and I'm working, the dollar amount at the town meeting came from the quote from Precision Alarm, and Aaron and you and I had talked already because there was some concerns about the date that was on there. Well, that date was given to us back in 2009, but that wasn't the price in 2009. That is, but I asked him exactly what needs to take place. My best guess is that that particular quote is a little bit padded in the event that they meet some unforeseen obstacles in there. So there may be some savings there, and I might be speaking out of turn. I really don't know. To answer your question, we seem to have the start of school in September as, obviously that's our goal. The words, the school will never open in September without this system, never came out of this mouth, okay? We are going to work with the school system, and there's a way to do it. Right now, there's a system in there that's working. So if we can't meet the time frame and it can't get installed, but if we're moving forward, as long as I'm sitting in my seat and I have the authority to make that decision, and there's a protective measure in there for the students and the staff, that building will open on time. That's my goal. I'm not putting the superintendent up against a wall saying it's got to be done by whatever school starting time is. I don't know how long it takes to go out to bid. I'm doing that right now with a truck that was approved, and I'm one of these giddy-up guys. When somebody approves my truck, I want it yesterday. So I put the order in this morning.
So are we putting it out to bid? It's our building, correct?
Yes. So the next steps are that Mrs. Cobb, Dr. DeFalco, will sit with Chief Sweeney and a couple of others to make sure that we pull together the proper spec. The procurement laws of the Commonwealth allow us to waive the amount of time that usually you need under 30B and 149 to procure because of the emergency nature that we are in.
Which is also a state list, too, that we could go off of.
Yes, yes.
But you just said Dr. DeFalco, so are you saying that this is not even starting until July 1st?
No, we will be starting it.
The money is not available till
Right,
July.
we will be starting this.
But the bid could be in, the work could be lined up before
Yes, we're not waiting until July 1st. Absolutely.
Any other questions?
And what will happen after that, I guess?
Well, after you bid and you accept the lowest responsive and responsible bidder under procurement, then the work proceeds. And so I believe that, as Chief says, we will coordinate with the experts to make sure that we always have a safe building and that we get the work done as quickly as we can with the right people doing the work at the right price. Absolutely.
And keep in mind, I mean, that building is open year-round. Our administrative offices are there. So even when the kids are out of school, there are still people in that building every day,
Right.
except for the weekend. So
My concern is from the fire service is when there's nobody in the building. When there's somebody in the building, again, with the 50 smoke detectors will chime in and detect smoke a lot quicker than a heat detector will ring. A heat detector has to reach 135 degrees on the ceiling. Now, if you were to go in there and sense all of this, I never really looked up all the years that I was in that school and attended that school. I never really paid attention, but I sat in the auditorium during town meeting and I looked up. I think there might be 3 heat detectors. So if you're sitting in that and a seat catches fire, by the time that heat detector rings, somebody's pretty burnt.
Yeah.
So I'm more concerned if that nothing gets started, obviously. And I was told by a local alarm technician that he said, this isn't a job that you're going to get a small company to come in with 1 or 2 guys. And I think that's one of the reasons that Precision doesn't want to bid on it, because he's not big enough. This is a system that they're going to come in and you're going to have a workforce of 15 or 20 people coming in to attack this. And I keep my fingers crossed and I hope that some of the existing conduit can be reused and string new wires through there. But again, I rely on those experts. But hopefully we can get the panel started in there. In the existing system, they don't come in and rip out the old system. The existing system will sit there. The panel isn't going to be located where the panel is right now. The panel is going to be relocated to the front of the building where the annunciator is now in the A wing. That's where the fire alarm control panel will be located. So they could theoretically come in, start their work, put their panel in, and start branching out and installing the devices, leaving the old system working. That's my goal and my hope.
Any other questions? Anyone? All right. Well, thank you very much for taking your
Chief,
time.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
In the event that I don't get the chance, I wish you, Al, the very best, and whatever the future holds for you.
Yep.
It has been an absolute pleasure over the last number of years working with you.
Thank you, Chief. Town of Blackstone is very lucky to have department heads and people that work so well together and for the safety of all. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of other building update notes as we move on. We know that we have had sewer and septic issues at the Kennedy Maloney complex. Mr. Tringali is becoming very well versed in all of that repair work. Williamson is there this week and making the necessary repairs. Again, part of the reason when you don't have operation and maintenance done on a regular basis, you have to react quickly, and that's exactly what happened here. The good news is the town of Blackstone is picking up the entire cost, and we thank everyone for that cooperation. Regarding the school building authority and the update, Millville, we applied again for the accelerated repair project for the Millville Elementary School. We have yet to hear back there. Typically it's sometime in June. We're halfway through, and a lot of things depend upon whether that gets accepted or not. The Kennedy project is before the town, special town meeting, also June 27th for Blackstone at the high school. And it's a very prescripted vote that needs to be taken, so the town would vote on the entire project cost, which is $4.6 million. And that's the estimate that we have, and MSBA has approved. So on the 27th in the morning, the Board of Directors will, we hope, approve that project, and then the town will vote it that evening, and the amount of expected reimbursement is about $2.6 million. So the town of Blackstone would raise or appropriate the difference, the $2 million, on the repairs for the boilers, the HVAC, the windows, and the doors. The high school was also resubmitted as a core renovation project, and MSBA has that in front of them. They chose not to move it forward last year as they did with Millville Elementary. We expect that the consideration will be magnified. They know that the building's deficiency, certainly around handicap access, is very, very, very important to Department of Public Safety. And so we would expect that we would hear in July at some point if the high school has been accepted for core renovation. And that is the building updates as we stand.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, so we had looked at the possibility, and again, it takes a while sometimes to move things forward, but we looked at the possibility of saving $6,000 by changing the start times at the middle school and the high school. We have engaged in direct conversation with Telstone, and so we think that we can leave the start times as they are and still be able to realize a majority of that amount as savings. So I know that the school committee at the last meeting had taken a vote to change the start times, just needed to ask the committee to rescind that change in start time and leave them as they are currently.
I'd like to make a motion to rescind the start time change.
Moved by Jack, seconded by Bethany. Is there any discussion?
Just, the plan is that Telstone will stop at the high school to let the students off.
Yes.
So on regular bus routes, so a
Yes.
bus that goes down Lincoln Street currently now will make a stop at the high school. or the
Somehow
middle
that
school.
bus number will be announced to the sports
Yes,
students.
once we have the updated.
Once we know.
Yeah, once we have the updated bus routes so that the students would be able to get back there. Now, there will be probably an additional expense during tryouts or during the start of a season, but that will be far more minimal than the entire amount. And Telstone understands the level of the challenge of reducing this budget. So I believe that they have signaled as the partners that they are that we will be able to manage that through students riding on the regular bus routes.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor of rescinding the start time, putting them back to the regular way, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. You also have in your packet the physical restraint prevention and behavior support policy. And this is the final updated version that does comply with 603 CMR 46. There's a lot to this, but please take it on faith that it has been vetted by everybody, that this will suffice for us. So I would just ask the committee for a motion to approve this as our restraint policy.
Okay. Before we do that, I will say that the appendix portion and the timeline portion on the back is not something that we would include in a policy. That's more your timeline or protocol. So we just need to make sure that those Mass General Law are included at the bottom of whatever ends up being the policy page.
And this has gone through Dorothy?
No.
It's been vetted by MASC though.
Oh, okay.
Along with our own healthcare professionals, so it is
up to
I
date.
don't believe Dorothy has eyeballed it herself, but it is.
MASC approved.
Yes, it is the current policy that they are working with.
But it would still need to be sent to be included in our manual.
Yes.
I'm still waiting for the electronic version of the last one.
Oh.
Someone.
I did.
Oh,
I
you
did.
sent it to me?
Yes,
Oh, I
in
didn't
the
see it.
email that
Okay.
we had, yes.
All right. And Loretta has blessed this.
Yes. Loretta, nurses, special ed, MASC.
Would anyone like to make the motion to approve this, or?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve the.
So moved by Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Tammy. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the physical restraint prevention and behavior support policy, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay.
Thank you very much. So the last item on my report, we have used the STARS assessment from Renaissance the last several years as with great success. It's a premier program, and the committee had asked for the report for this year. We have included it in our list of reductions. The cost is about $17,000 a year. It is a gap for us because the information is so important for us to monitor the progress of our students, and there is hope. I know that Dr. DeFalco is a huge proponent of this. We have had conversation about how do we get this type of assessment back into our budget. But this report will take the committee a little time to go through, and I certainly have the leadership team to discuss. But it basically shows us that we are, our students are moving at about the state average. But individually, this allows for our building-based teams to assess and to come up with strategies so that our students may continue to move themselves forward. And I have the experts here if there's any questions. It may take some time, and certainly we can get back at a future date. I think that the big question is, what do we use instead, and if there's anything else. This is used by so many districts because of the value in the information that we get so quickly. So this is
Okay. So when we were first told of this opportunity for assessment data, my understanding was it was to be done early in the year, kind of maybe midway through the year, towards the end of the year, but that those points in between were opportunities to address RTI issues and other educational opportunities. Is that the way that it was used? Tell me what we're seeing here. We're seeing fall, winter, spring data for each grade level.
Yes.
Did this work
It's
the
in
way it was
right-hand
supposed to be
corner.
work? Yeah, I can kind of see that,
Susan
but
is
I
in
don't.
the right-hand corner.
Yeah. But was it used that way? Was it just used as reporting?
I would ask
Was
if
it a good tool?
I would ask if the members of the leadership team, Dr. Hahi or Mrs. Kurt, would come up. Mr. Tringali, if you want to add.
The total cost is 17,000?
Yes, the total cost.
Reduction that we made?
Yes, the total cost for STARS is 17,000. That's district-wide grades 2 through 9. It seems expensive, but for the information we get, it is a terrific value. But that's the price. And I know that Dr. Hahi has worked tirelessly with the vendor. The vendor is very supportive. in making sure that they give us every support that we can. But you know, it's certainly a lot of data. It's good data, and going forward, I'm not quite sure where we go. But I defer to the experts.
I'll start with the elementary components. In terms of the elementary, it really was a good measure in terms of helping us baseline, progress monitor at the second, close the second trimester, and also kind of see where our students were. The drill down and the training for drill down, the vendor was outstanding in offering us webinars and other supports and resources with our faculty and staff where questions came up. They've been a really, I can't compliment them enough in terms of their outreach and their communication and their supports that they've offered to us throughout the year. I've only had this year to kind of be at point with regard to the elementary piece and looking at it from grades 2 through 8. And I know you had the 6 through 8 piece, but every time I turned around, they offered resource and support to us whenever we had a technical assistance question or something that we needed to do. They've been excellent partners in helping our faculty and staff be the best they can be in understanding and utilizing the data. Reading specialist, Mrs. Allard in particular, I'll speak to because she's in our building. She sat in more than one meeting asking very thoughtful questions about how can I run this report, what's another way of looking at it. What you're looking at this evening is the growth reports and the growth charts for our children. And what it shows is we are holding to state average. I mean, in a very vanilla explanation, lack of a better way of putting it. And what you would see in our kids, it helped us kind of target interventions with specific children where we needed it. I know I ran a group earlier this year myself for math, and I ran another group for reading. And the data that was produced really did kind of help me rethink the way I was providing interventions and supports to the students that I had the opportunity to work with. Mrs. Allard, it helped her reset and utilize the data for Title I services and supports. And it proved very useful throughout the course of the year. We just concluded our Term 3 measures and closeouts, so that third dipstick, I believe, set on June 4th. I think that's what your report should say, so I'm hoping it is. So June 4th, all the elementary grades had a chance to, when we ran the reports on June 4th, get this together for you. But our teachers in our building were working to get it done just before that, I want to say the 1st of the month, so that the reports could be run for you in this meeting tonight. Again, very useful tool. In order for us to be productive when it comes to our child study teams and running a child study team process that is data-driven and not I think, I feel, I believe, I can't emphasize enough how important this tool is to our faculty and our staff. We have a lot more work to do as we roll it out, and we're excited to do it with this vendor. So I did provide an end-of-year closeout report to the superintendent, really a snapshot in time as quickly as I could, and I did highlight the fact that STARS was a point of contention around how we provide interventions. But regardless of the grade level, we really found the tool quite useful, and I was very appreciative for, again, the vendor supports and resources that they gave us throughout the year. Sorry, go ahead.
So I worked on this with Gwen, because even though she helps me at the middle school, and really it was via Google Doc conversation and telephone conversation, because she's Title I, and she had very limited time left in paying. So she kind of wrote this summary at the beginning to explain, because she wanted me to ensure that you know that what is here doesn't necessarily correlate perfectly to MCAS, right, because it used to correlate to PARC. Mm-hmm. So that's why we put this little blurb here of what to explain. Then the next 2 pages are the growth summaries, and then we also...
Did you say when?
When?
Gwen
Swanson.
I was, so I'm sorry, we all heard when, and we're looking at when like, why would she be commenting on STAR data?
No, Gwen Swanson, she's been the
sorry.
Title I support person for math for me, but she's also like the STARS guru.
I just was so caught up on why Wen would be analyzing the STAR data that and we were all looking at each other, so I think we heard the same.
So the
Sorry.
first 2 pages are just the growth charts, but then it's also definitions of what all the different scores mean so that you understand all of the acronyms.
Yep.
And then I organized all these reports. Now these are just overview of each grade, but we already have every single student and all their information. I don't have math yet because we were still finishing up, because to test everyone in the school, I don't have enough labs and lab time to get it done in time. So I started with Millville, and that's there because it only goes grades 2 to 8 is what we had. And then it goes through to the complex and then the middle school, and every single one we have fall, winter, and spring. So it's 3 times that she pulled these reports for. In the middle school, we do test quarterly.
So I have a question. I think I have an idea of how it's used in the middle school quarterly, but I think we've been trying to wrap ourselves, since we expanded out of middle school, but into 2nd grade last year and then 3rd grade this year. How is it being used in elementary school? What are they doing with the data?
So for Title I reading in particular, as I referenced, it really helps us kind of do.
So actually, can I ask, the teachers that are here, I think there's some 5th grade or 4th grade. Is it incorporated into the classroom, or, I mean, would they be able to explain to us how it's?
I think the middle school has a different version than us.
Correct. Correct.
So I think what they have provides them with more information.
We don't. We have not really
have the
used the
360?
features of 360.
Okay.
So when things first came up on the so quote unquote chopping block, I told Paul, what exactly is the 360 and what does it do? So he talked to the representatives, and it wasn't giving us what we thought it would do, and it was extremely complex for the teachers to understand and try to actually go in and find things to help them. So we've only been using really the Star
Base.
180 base and not really the 360.
So
Are we paying for the 360?
As piggyback on the side,
we
let me
did this
explain.
year.
Yeah, but let me explain how you got that. There are specific groups of students that require more intense drill down, and there are features in the 360 platform that previous administration had put forward. The fact that that was done
When it was in middle school, correct?
Yeah, in middle school only.
Okay.
But the reason that was done was to provide for subgroups and high-need students that were placed at risk and needed to be assessed, because it provided additional features and intervention processes that were necessary for the kids who were struggling.
Yeah.
For a lack of a better way of saying it.
But you're
These
saying
were
we
kids
have
who-
not used that this year?
The 2 Title I inventionists, the 2 Title I support personnel that I had Gwen Swanson, who came in for only a certain amount, and then I also have Mrs. Dutka, who presently teaches 2 math RTI, and it's only been based in math, because I lost the reading support this year.
Nay, were you gonna? You can.
We just use it to test 3 times a year. I think Mrs. Torvey looks into it a little bit more, the reading specialist, but as classroom teachers, it really doesn't give us the information we need with the version that we have to really guide the classroom teacher in RTI instruction, because we can't really, we don't see the questions, and we're not able to see where they went wrong.
There's also a lot of guessing in it, so there's only A, B, C, D, and we brought up, could there be something else? These kids are great guessers. So the fact is, my class did incredible, they grew great, but yet when you test them on the standards, they're still struggling. So once they hit so many, they move up. They move up in the grade level, or they drop right down. So there's only 34 questions, and we have over 30 standards for math. So they're not testing everything, so they're moving up based on that, based on a good guess. And it doesn't seem that it's accurate compared to what they're doing in class.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Please, you can.
Can I ask you a clarifying question? You're making a really big assumption that the kids are just guessing the right answers. Yeah, I guess I have a hard time with that, because I'm using this, can I finish? Thank you. I'm using this, that's okay. I'm using this in 550 classrooms. And I do hear what you're saying in terms of the multiple choice piece, but as educators, we know that we don't just use one data point to determine student mastery on a particular standard. So we should be looking at this as one data point, and the reports from this are significant in terms of the level of information they will give you on individual students. We actually move forward with this particular assessment system because of the individual student information that teachers can get and then use to plan for learning, for those kids that's sitting in front of them. So I guess I just want to push back in your thinking and your thought that kids are really good guessers, because I don't think you're giving the students enough credit. And I would actually also ask you to look at a variety of data points when determining what are the level of intervention that students need in the additional extension activities to really push them further in their thinking.
We're not doing anything with the data.
Okay, so that's a different issue, right? So that I get.
3 times a year, we're not doing anything with the data, and they're just taking the test.
So that I understand, but I think that's a separate issue from what we're discussing.
There was another level that they could look at some of the questions and they could look at things like that. And we were excited about that because then we could say, well, they got that question wrong, but what kind of question was it? So we were excited to see that. But when they delivered it to elementary, they said we didn't get that
Like,
person.
we would be able to see if they fell apart for ELA, like in point of view. They
Yep.
definitely are, but we can't see that. We don't see
Not
any.
in elementary, and they're not using it, we're paying for it and not using it.
That's helpful.
That's what it is. Like, we would love to be able to see, you got this question wrong, this is what the question
The
was.
standard.
And this is the answer they chose, so we could figure out why they went wrong.
Sure, and I understand that piece. I think the part that I was taking issue with, I've looked at multiple data points already for our students, and I've visited our classrooms. We have brilliant kids, so I just take issue with that they're really good guessers. And so I would just ask you to continue to look at a variety of data points as we drill deeper into this. Should this be something we can actually move forward with? And the standards do very much align. So the standards that you're teaching through Envisions in particular should be aligning very closely with the 5th grade standards that are being assessed here. And then it's an adaptive test. So as kids start to show mastery, as you know, right, it'll adapt up or it will go down. But I would push everybody to understand this is just one data point. And the more authentic we can get in terms of student work, the better off, we're going to have an understanding of how much the kids know and where they need to go next.
Like for as an ELA teacher, the Fontes and Pinnell assessment that we do provides me with a lot more data that I can use than right now, the way we use
Sure.
Star 360.
Yeah, get some more authentic feedback from the kids. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Dr. Hawhey, with respect to intervention, using this data for the interventionist versus the classroom teacher, is the focus on the students? So for people out there, we have a color-coded version of things. Who are the targeted students?
So your color would be the red and the yellows. The red and the yellows, for lack of a better way of putting it.
I ask that because other districts will often focus on, they'll focus on the blue to get them into the green. Everybody
Correct.
has a different philosophy of who to work on first.
Where I was going with my response earlier was to explain that with Title I and how we've been allocated or recognized as a Title I district needing to provide reading services, it's not uncommon for Mrs. Allard to say, I'm changing up the groups based on what I see, but also, what else is going on in the room. I see these concerns. We have built in and reset the groups for Title I throughout the year, and I've depended on Mrs. Allard to do that work. But for her, she's looking at where are the neediest and most high risk, and what can we do to address that. We built in a different model for K1 and 2, and particularly grade 1, with Mrs. DeVia's help and her help going into the kindergarten RTI sessions, so that we were making sure before grade 1, all our students are reading. And if not, we're having conversations through our child study team or our building-based study team process and using it as one of the data points like Dr. DeFalco referenced. I will tell you, we have faculty who've been doing this quite a while. They're very talented and very skilled. They don't come with concerns unless they've really got to worry. Mrs. Devia has been lights out when it comes to saying, you know, I've got a concern with this kindergarten and we need to move them forward. But it's not just Mrs. Devia, it's Mrs. Allard and the 2 kindergarten teachers at Point working together to say we've worked for 8 to 10 weeks and here's what we're seeing and we're bringing it forward for a concern. And my expectation is by the time we conclude grade 1, we know all kids are reading, and if they're not reading, we know why, and we've had an opportunity to address that. We are not rich in human resources, as you know, given our current state of the union. So it's about really pushing down as many interventions and strategies as possible into the lower grades and being as aggressive as we can be with what we have, for lack of a better way of saying it. And that's one of the ways we've utilized it. We still have our moments. We still work different data points. I think you referenced it rather well, Dr. DeFalco. And I do listen and look at the qualitatives. When a teacher tells me, Paul, can you take a look at something? I'm not shy. I walk the building in the morning, I walk it in the afternoon, and if they're asking me to take a look at something, I've done that because they're concerned. And you know, we do utilize qualitative data just like an F&P score, just like any other data point. But for us, where we've been new to Title I in Melville this year, it's been an important piece for our Title I servicing and regrouping those kids according to need. And to your point about the vendor and STAR, I can't say enough good things about them and their stewardship and willingness to train on the fly. Grades 1, 2, and kindergarten had webinars at different points throughout the year offered, and we've spent a bit of time kind of getting our arms around it. We're not perfect with all the reports because there's a lot that can be drilled down and done with them. But I really appreciate the fact that we've had teachers stay and work on these things and kind of get their arms around what's needed for the kids, and especially in the early years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Mr. Himmelberger.
Thank you.
It's not on the agenda, but Dr. DeFalco, is there anything you want to add or comments you'd like to make?
No.
Okay, well, thank you for
Thanks.
joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
School committee forum, Karen.
Not much. School's winding up. We're expecting kindergarten graduation to happen soon, and the kids are getting ready. I'm excited for that. And we've got our 5th graders finishing, and that's exciting. You know, hopefully everybody's going to come out and vote. You know, in Millville, it's a hot topic, so be informed, come out, let your voice be heard at the ballot next Tuesday, followed by the town meeting the following week. So hopefully everybody can do that.
Best of luck to anybody taking their final exams in the coming week. That's always a fun experience that I didn't have to deal with my last couple of years thanks to our new final exam policies. So that's about all I have.
We change those now that
No.
Oh, no.
No.
They're fantastic.
But no.
You put in the work ahead of time and you don't have to put in the work at the end. It's very nice.
I was thinking
I love
nobody
it.
should have them ever.
Oh, okay. Yes, let's change them.
Bethany.
Sure. I'd just like to thank the faculty, staff, and administration for all the hard work that they do with our children. It's really appreciated.
Tammy?
That is what I was going to say, but I also want to thank Millville officials for actually getting the $39,000 vote out on the agenda, and so that that can be done in the hopes that Dr. DeFalco can have a budget on July 1st to actually use without the 1/12. So I thank them. I mean, that was a question at one time, and it is greatly appreciated by self to be able to get a chance to move forward, and I hope the voters support that.
I echo pretty much everything that's been said, and I'm excited that the playground opened today at Millville Elementary. I hope.
And I definitely want to thank everyone for all the communication in the last few weeks, and being able to get to this point without losing our minds. And I definitely want to thank everyone for participating in the playground dedication today, including the Providence Fire Department, which I was immensely surprised at a lot of their attendance. There were several chiefs there, and the honor guard. So that meant a lot, and I am just so glad that those kids have a playground.
Welcome. As am I. I'd like to again congratulate the graduates of BMR. It was a lovely graduation ceremony. I thought the speakers did a great job, and the weather held out, so it was a lovely day. I do wish everyone success at closing out the year. As Wen said earlier, we might close it out well, right, Wen?
Yes.
So that's a good thing considering where we were in January. So I wish everyone the best. Our next meeting is June 28th. Regularly scheduled meeting in time, and of course the Blackstone Town meeting special town meeting on the 27th, and the Millville Town meeting on the 27th. So hopefully everyone will participate, listen actively and respectfully. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Tammy, seconded by Jack, because he's faster. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting adjourned.